There are bad starts. Baseball season is really long. And then there is what happened to Shota Imanaga on Friday because he got crushed by the Mets. 3 innings, 11 hits, 10 earned runs, 3 homers allowed in that start. Negative 16.5 fantasy points on CBS. And we said this throughout, even earlier on in the season, heading into the season, he's a fly ball pitcher. The weather is going to heat up at some point. He allows hard contact. There are going to be starts where he gives up home runs and bad things happened. That is exactly what happened here. The velocity was also down on all of his pitches in this start, so something to pay attention to more so moving forward. But when things go bad, they tend to go pretty bad for Imanaga. He has 2 starts with 7+ earned runs this season. Gives up some barrels. Any takeaways overall just on this and I guess your view of Shota Imanaga moving forward? He's at the Giants this week.
Oh, I got a few takeaways. So the biggest takeaway here is this was Shota Imanaga's first time facing a lineup for the second time. And his quote after the game was, "I felt like their lineup when I faced them today, they were different." And the Mets talked about how they had a plan of attack against him. Shota Imanaga said, "I definitely felt like they made an adjustment." He's got a fastball with great characteristics other than pure velocity, and he's got a splitter, and that's basically what he throws. So you do wonder if once a team gets a look at him, like once the league gets a look at him, if that might be a little too predictable. I'm not saying he's going to get crushed every start from this point forward, but might he be a little less dominant, especially in summer months? The ball carries better, him being a fly ball pitcher, all that stuff you said. I'm not saying now's a great time to shop him, and I still think he's a really good asset for your fantasy team. I'm not saying abandon ship on Shota Imanaga, but he probably was overperforming the first 2 months.
I mean, it goes without saying that he was, right? Like,
Sure.
you have he wasn't the best. He's not the best pitcher in baseball. And the one thing I do think about when I look at Shota Imanaga is when he's facing a heavily right-handed lineup. My thought is on a day when the splitter's not really working for him, where else does he go? And it's not like the splitter was terrible. It was his best pitch. But because his other pitches are the curveball and especially the sweeper, if he has a third pitch, that's the one he goes to. But he's only thrown 9 of them to right-handed hitters all season. And so I do wonder if teams are going to start trying to stack their lineup with righties more against Shota Imanaga to try to take advantage of that. And look, there will be days when the splitter is dazzling and it doesn't matter because that's a pitch that can nullify the platoon advantage. But that's a potential red flag for me. But my view of Shota Imanaga has remained, I think he's lefty Joe Ryan. And that's mostly what I think. Joe Ryan, we have seen stretches like this from Joe Ryan before. And so I think you add it all up, he's got a 3.52 xERA. That's about where I think he's going to be. It's a 24 to 25% strikeout rate. Whip should be very good, but it's a sub-ace pitcher. But both him and Joe Ryan are, I think, top 25 pitchers for me. So it's not like I'm out on Shota Imanaga.
Sure.
Would you start Imanaga at the Giants this week? Bigger ballpark to pitch in. They are good against lefties, though. 8th in WOBA against lefties.
I would.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he bounced. He had one other disastrous start, and I'm looking at it now. He actually gave a fair number of unearned runs in that start, so the line looked better than maybe he actually pitched. But then he followed that with 2 great starts. Yeah, I think Shota Imanaga, until further notice, is still must start.
The other one who had a pretty bad outing this weekend, and we had a few of these. Again, the weather's starting to heat up. I think I haven't looked into this yet. If one of you guys want to check, but it feels like offense has been up even more recently over the past week or so. Carlos Rodon has been hit hard 2 starts in a row now. He went 3 2/3 innings, 11 hits, 8 runs, 7 of those earned, 3 homers allowed in this start against the Atlanta Braves. He got hit so hard. He was seen tearing up in the Yankees dugout. I don't know what was going on. Like, he's a fierce, competitive guy, Carlos Rodon, but there have been some weird moments since he's
strong men also cry, Frank.
No, that's totally fine. But in the middle of a game, I just found it a little interesting.
I don't know. Did you guys see anything that specifically stood out besides the results in this one?
Lots of hard.
Well, I did see that he threw his changeup and curveball a combined 35% of the time, which was a season high. And, you know, this started with him being mostly fastball slider. That's been throughout the good stretches of his career. Carlos Rodon has really leaned on fastball slider. And so he's been mixing in that curveball and changeup more with some success. I don't know that it was the reason why he struggled, because the fastball and slider both got hit harder than the curveball and changeup in this start. Yeah. So I may be barking up the wrong tree with that, but that is something that I noticed that was different. He's been mixing them in more and mixed them in most of all in this start. It might be a couple things. I mean, we've noted in Carlos Rodon's past couple turns that he was well outperforming his ERA estimators in a way that I kind of found head scratching, but nonetheless, he was. And so due for some regression, you could argue, for sure. Braves lineup has been heating up.
Yes, for sure.
And still hits the ball harder than any lineup in baseball. And so he may have just run into a lineup that was hot, you know? I'm not abandoning ship on Carlos Rodon either, I guess, long story short.
How many lefties did the Braves have in the lineup? Was it only two? It was just Kelenic and Olsen?
I'd have to look.
Because that would be the thing if you're talking about like throwing the changeup and curveball more. He never throws those pitches against lefties. And so, you know, maybe it was something about the lineup configuration. He wanted to try to attack right-handed hitters with those.
Only Olsen and Kelenic, yeah.
Yeah, and they did some damage against him, which is not usually what you see with left-handed hitters, especially against Carlos Rodon, and also not what you see from Jared Kelenic against lefties.
Hey, Jared Kelenic, forget this Rodon start. Jared Kelenic became the first lefty to homer off Nestor Cortez on Sunday.
And he almost homered against Carlos Rodon. He had a ball that was like 380 feet, I think. It could have been out in like a third of ballparks. So I don't know what to make of that. I still think Jared Kelenic probably can't hit lefties, but we're talking about Carlos Rodon. I didn't necessarily see much in the way of, this is why he struggled. So I don't know what to make of the Rodon start.
Do you start him at the Blue Jays this week? They are pretty bad against lefties.
Yeah, I would.
Yep.